Deladon again.
We had a great year last year, won a lot of games.
Welcome back, CAA Hoops fans. This is CAA Hoops Weekly. I'm Bobby Broyles, along with Rob Washburn. And Rob, we're going to waste no time today because we have a lot to talk about. Plus, our special guest, Brian Mull from the Wilmington Star-News, will be joining us a little later. So let's begin with men's basketball. This past Monday night, as a sensational freshman, R.J. Hunter of Georgia State put on a show for the Panthers when they went on the road to knock off Towson.
Yeah, no question. An outstanding game. 14 ties, 9 lead changes in this game. Neither team leads by more than 6 points, but as you mentioned, R.J. Hunter with a career-high 27 points, including an NBA-range three-pointer for the game winner with about a minute to go. Then he blocks a shot with 2 seconds to go as Towson tries to tie. So a big win for Georgia State. They've been involved in 8 games this season, decided by 3 points or less, now 4-4 in those games. For Towson, Jarrell Benjamin with his NCAA leading 14th double-double, 18 points and 10 rebounds.
Then on Wednesday night, the Northeastern Huskies survived a double overtime thriller at home against William & Mary.
Yeah, a tale of two halves in this one. Northeastern goes up 16 early in the second half, but William & Mary shoots 73% in the second half and forces the extra session. The teams play to a draw in the first overtime, but in the second overtime, the senior for Northeastern, Joel Smith, takes over 11 of his career-high 29 points in the second half, and Northeastern improves to 7-0 in CAA play for the first time ever. More heartbreak for the Tribe, their 8th straight loss. It was their 3rd double overtime loss this year. And Tim Rusthoven, outstanding effort in the setback, career-high 25 points and 11 rebounds for William & Mary.
Now as we switch our focus over to the women's side, Thursday night, Drexel looked to stay undefeated in conference play as they traveled to Northeastern to take on the Huskies, a team that's very good at home this year.
Yeah, it was a night of milestones as Drexel picks up an 85-73 victory. They improved to 6-0 in CAA play for the first time ever. Also the 100 CAA win for head coach Denise Dillon. Holly Mershon goes for a career-high 33 points to lead Drexel, and then the senior Taylor Wooten goes for 26, also a career high for her in her 3rd straight game, over 20 points. Northeastern also has some milestones. Deanna Kirchhoff scores 16 points and goes over the 1,000-point mark for her career in the first half.
Also on Thursday night, the Delaware Blue Hens remained undefeated after knocking off the UNCW Seahawks. Another big game for Elena Deladon, who is now starting to garner some national recognition.
Yeah, Delaware gets a big effort from its entire senior class in a 67-39 win over UNCW. Elena leading the way, 26 points on 11 of 15 shooting. Delaware also gets 13 points from Lauren Carra and 10 points and 8 rebounds from Danielle Parker. And as you mentioned, the awards beginning to roll in for Elena. She was put on the midseason top 20 watch list for the Wooden Award as the National Player of the Year.
That was your look around CAA men's and women's basketball this week. Now as we get ready for the weekend ahead, we will begin on the women's side today as we have a rematch of last year's title game in Philadelphia on Sunday afternoon at 2 o'clock as Drexel plays host to Delaware.
Yeah, this is the first time those two rivals get together since meeting at the Showplace Arena last March. Delaware pulling out a 59-43 win to pick up its first CAA championship. As we touched on, Drexel sits atop the standings at 6-0. Delaware right behind at 5-0, and they've won 23 in a row. Plenty of offensive firepower in this game, of course, with Deladon and Lauren Carra for Delaware and Holly Mershon and Taylor Wooten, like we've talked about for Drexel. But one thing that I'm going to watch, these are also the top 2 teams in the CAA in scoring defense. So it might be whoever can lock the other team down may be the winner in this one.
Then at 5:30 Sunday, it will be the Hofstra Pride hitting the road to take on the JMU Dukes, a televised contest on the Comcast family of networks in SNY and Long Island.
Yeah, James Madison 5-1 now in the CAA after beating rival George Mason 71-55 on Thursday night, while Hofstra is 4-1 in the league and has had the week off to prepare for its trip to Harrisonburg. Of course, Pride coach Krista Kilburn-Safesky is a former assistant coach at JMU under Coach Kenny Brooks, so the two know each other extremely well. Hofstra comes in having won 7 of its last 8. JMU's won 8 of its last 9. Of course, the game features 2 of the top players in the CAA in Hofstra forward Shantae Evans and JMU guard Tariq Hislop.
Now here's a look at the rest of this weekend's action around CAA women's basketball. Back over to the men's side now. We talked about R.J. Hunter and Georgia State being one of the hotter teams in the league at the moment. They traveled to Drexel Saturday to take on a Dragons squad that is building some momentum as well.
Yeah, Drexel, of course, was the preseason favorite to win the CAA this season, but they've battled some injuries and got off to a bit of a slow start. But they certainly should have some momentum going into this one. As many people I'm sure have seen by now, They win up at Hofstra 55-52 on Wednesday night on a 3-point 50-foot shot at the buzzer by Franz Massenet. So they bring a lot of momentum into this game. Of course, they're getting healthy now. Damian Lee is back in the lineup. Daryl McCoy played about 13 minutes on Wednesday night. So Drexel's starting to get some momentum going, now 3-3 in the league. Of course, for Georgia State, they've now won 4 in a row after beating UNCW at home on Wednesday night. And along with R.J. Hunter and Manny Atkins, who was the co-player of the week, one of the guys that Ron Hunter's talked about a lot is his point guard, Devontae White. He scored double figures in 15 straight games, among the league leaders in assists and steals, and his matchup with Franz Massenet should be a great one.
Then Sunday night at 8 on the Comcast Sportsnet regional networks, it will be the Northeastern Huskies looking to stay undefeated in conference play as they play host to George Mason.
Yeah, matchup of the top 2 teams in the league. And as we mentioned, the Huskies are 7-0 in CAA play, and they started CAA play this season by getting an 84-74 win in Fairfax in early January. They were trailing by 7 at halftime of that game, but scored 54 points in the second half and pick up the victory. It was Mason's first home CAA loss since 2010. Mason, of course, 5-2 in the CAA, coming off an impressive 77-67 win at Towson on Wednesday. Sherrod Wright with his 10th 20-point game of the season. But the story of that game was Brian Allen getting inserted back into the starting lineup for Coach Paul Hewitt. He comes up with 16 points, 6 assists, no turnovers, and really gave them a lift.
Here is a quick look at the rest of the action happening around CAA men's basketball. Coming up towards the halfway point of the men's basketball season, it is a perfect time to bring in our special guest today, Brian Mull of the Wilmington Star News. Brian, first of all, thank you for joining us today. And is there anything that has surprised you so far in the conference season?
Well, thanks so much for having me on, Bobby. And, well, it's just been so unpredictable, I guess, which is surprising in itself. I think Drexel and Delaware's struggles have caught everyone off guard a little bit. They certainly look like the most talented teams coming in, and Georgia State's emergence here with a pretty much a whole new cast of characters. You know, they're looking like a team that can contend for the top 3 or 4. You know, it just seems like on any night, anything can happen. There really no such thing as an upset this year, and every game can kind of go either way. So many games are coming down to the last 4 minutes.
Brian, when you talk about surprises, as we touched on, Northeastern is 7-0 in the league and has a big game on Sunday night against George Mason, the top 2 teams in the league. What surprised you thus far about the Huskies?
Well, Northeastern has as good of a perimeter trio in Lee, Smith, and Ford as you'll find in the conference and really in mid-major basketball. You know, all 3 guys can shoot from the perimeter and create for themselves or a teammate. Spencer is really their only inside scoring threat, and he's been serviceable to this point. He's going to have his hands full against Mason. Their strength is their front court. Guys like Copes and Arledge and Williams, they can really keep coming at you. And it seems like the combination of Edwards and Allen in the backcourt kind of gives them another dimension, shores up their ball handling a little bit. And what I've seen from Mason here, really since they came down here and just had a dismal performance at Wilmington, they've picked it up on the defensive end, which is something they were doing well earlier in the season. And I think it's there's a possibility in that game that they could force Northeastern to become solely a perimeter team, you know, and settle for a lot of jump shots. But you know, conversely, Mason has had some turnover problems from time to time, and Northeastern thrives on those. So it'll be kind of interesting there if Mason can get it into you know, where they can establish the paint and control the area around the basket. Then they'll have a very good chance. I still think Mason has the most good players in the conference. I mean, they could probably go 9 deep without much of a drop off, and they have a nice balance between perimeter guys and interior guys.
Brian, we talked earlier about Georgia State, and you got a chance to see them up close and personal on Wednesday night as the Panthers defeated UNCW. What's impressed you about Georgia State and their sensational freshman R.J. Hunter?
Well, you know they're going to play hard. They have an unusual and unique and difficult style to prepare for, with you know, their press, which is kind of a zone press, and then they go into a zone defense with a lot of length and a lot of quickness. And while they don't have a ton of size inside, they're able to offset that with athleticism and guys who are really quick to the ball. But there's 2 guys on that team that just stand out. I mean, obviously White is doing a great job as kind of the floor general and the point guard, and we've known about him for a couple of years. But R.J. Hunter is just an elite freshman. He's averaging over 16 points a game. I mean, I charted the Rookies of the Year back to 2000, and Brett Blizzard averaged 15. He kind of had the freshman gold standard type season, and Hunter is on that level at this point. And then Manny Atkins is just an absolute matchup nightmare. He's kind of a wing, but they have him playing inside. You have to kind of pick how you're going to try to defend him. He can take the ball and drive to the basket. He can shoot three-pointers. And their team is playing with a lot of confidence. I think Ron Hunter instills a lot of confidence in them. They're not extremely deep, but those 5 starters seem pretty comfortable playing 30 to 35 minutes a game. And especially down there, they're going to be difficult to beat. I think they feel like they can handle anybody in the conference, and there's no reason to think otherwise.
Brian, you released your Colonial X ratings on Monday, which provide the best 10 players in the CAA in your opinion. How do you come up with those ratings?
Well, Bobby, 4 or 5 years ago, I've always tried to take my vote in the all-conference end of the season vote pretty seriously, and I just kind of started keeping up from week to week with the players in the league. I kind of started with the top 15 or 20 guys and trying to look at it through the lens of efficiency. I think it's so easy sometimes when we're voting just to look at the top 5 in scoring or the top 2 or 3 rebounders and put those guys on the team. And a lot of times they do deserve to be there. But I just wanted to see who was bringing the most to the table and shooting high percentages and really helping their team win games, by how they were utilizing those possessions. So that's kind of how it started. About 3 years ago, I decided to make it a regular feature on my blog. It's not something that really lends itself to being done every week. I kind of allow it, I usually do a preseason version, and then, once we get into the conference season a little bit, try to break it out every couple of weeks. And it's, it's been fun. I enjoy doing it. It really allows me to, to stay abreast of the league. I keep a pretty detailed Excel spreadsheet and just really, try to evaluate these players with the NBA efficiency model, which is pretty simple, and then with a couple of the other more advanced offensive ratings. And I watch a ton of games as well between the internet, and then my DVR is usually pretty full, and try to get a good feel for who the top players in the league are.
Brian, where can fans find your Colonial X ratings and be able to follow your work throughout the rest of the season?
Well, I'm on Twitter at BGMole, and I am constantly tweeting there about UNCW and CAA basketball. And my blog is called The Dub Hub, and it's at starnewsonline.com. And the same thing there, primarily UNCW coverage, but a hearty dose of CAA coverage as well. We've always tried to do a good job down here of covering the entire league. The people who preceded me on the beat did so, and I've kind of tried to maintain that. So at BG Mole, pretty much everything is linked through there that I write, and the Dub Hub at starnewsonline.com.
Thank you for joining us today, Brian, and we will talk to you down the road.
Okay, thanks a lot, Bobby. Take care.
Once again, Brian Mull from the Wilmington Star News. And CAA Hoops fans, if you want to join in on the discussion on who you believe is one of the top 10 players in the league, log on to Twitter and tweet us at CAA Sports, and remember to use the hashtag CAA Hoops. That is it from us for today's show. Remember to log on to CAAsports.com for continuing coverage of everything that is happening around CAA Hoops. We'll be here next Friday. Have a great day, everybody.